welcome to another edition of CEO Angles, where we have the opportunity to chat with executives from around the insurance industry. AAIS is the industry-leading advisory organization in the inland marine and commercial output space. As such, we have been longtime supporters of the Inland Marine Underwriters Association. In this AAIS advisory report, I am thrilled to welcome Kevin O'Brien, President and CEO of the IMUA, as well as Jessica Frankovich, Executive Vice President for Custom Property and Inland Marine at Seneca Insurance, and Chair of the IMUA. Welcome to CEO Angles.
Great to be with you, Ed.
Thanks, Ed. It's great to be here.
Kevin, let's start with you. How would you describe the state of the inland marine market today as we emerge from the pandemic?
So the inland marine market, that space is very strong and quite competitive. Traditionally, the inland marine results have been considerably more profitable than the property casualty lines at large. Just average probably about 10% in the combined ratio. So that adds some tremendous profitability, which in turn creates a very attractive market, which brings in new entrants continually. They smell that profitability and they like to get a piece of it.
So to echo a few things Kevin said, the pandemic was really scary, especially from an inland standpoint. All of a sudden our construction projects were halted and our trucks were being pulled off the road. Thankfully, trucking rebounded really quickly. We even saw a newfound public appreciation for our truck drivers, and that was really amazing. Construction's booming again. We do have a material and labor shortage that has resulted in projects being delayed. They're not ending on time. This has become extremely challenging. When the project's still ongoing, but the policy's expired, it's been harder and harder to find coverage. The other interesting thing we've noticed during the pandemic is, despite all the challenges we've all had personally and professionally, the insurance market's grown a lot. And so in speaking with some of our broker partners, they continue to stress the need for more underwriters and more talent in our industry.
We hear a lot of talk about investments from the government in our infrastructure. Kevin, what would that mean to the industry?
I think the legislation that was recently passed by Congress is going to have a tremendous impact on inland marine industry. It's because it's going to have a lot of construction in it. Highways, dams, tunnels, overpasses, and all that is going to lead to increased exposure for the inland marine marketplace because construction is the biggest class of business for inland marine. That includes contractors' equipment, builder's risk, and installation floaters. So we expect exposures to be way up and additional premiums way up.
And how have economic conditions impacted the industry?
It's had a big impact on the industry. Everything shut down with the pandemic. Construction grind to a halt, transportation slowed tremendously, and those two classes of business are very big for inland marine. In fact, for 2020, the combined ratio was 97%. Big rebound in 2021 to 88%. And we expect 22 will finish nice and strong in 23 and 24. There's a lot of economic activity picking up now. We're almost back to normal. And we also see rate increases on renewal in the single digits, which always helps.
So to drill down a little bit on what Kevin said, the things that the underwriters are really seeing on their desk are first, increased costs of construction. We are getting a lot of midterm value changes on builders' risks, which used to be really rare. A lot of this is driven by the banks, but it's also being driven by savvy GCs that recognize that if they started a project today, it would cost 20%, 30%, or even more than what it would have cost when they originally started. The other thing is we obviously have a driver shortage and we have the trucking shortage, which is being driven by the manufacturing and chip shortage. This is resulting in much higher salvage value on vehicles that were involved in accidents. And we're also seeing a lot of truck drivers try not to total their vehicles and repair them instead because they just don't know when they're going to get another truck. And then also because of the driver shortage, there is the ongoing talk about lowering driver ages. This can be really problematic depending on what your coverage form provides.
Jessica, what can you tell us about risk emerging from last mile delivery?
Right, we are seeing a lot of different things come up because of last mile delivery. First, we're seeing a lot more builders' risks on larger warehouses that are being set up just to handle the logistics of last mile delivery. We're also seeing higher limits being requested on warehouse legal. That's a little challenging because the variety of commodities storage varies so greatly. It's a little hard to get our hands around it. We're also seeing a lot of Sprinter vans needing higher cargo limits. It's challenging. A lot of them are new ventures and they have non-CDL drivers. The other thing that we're seeing with last mile delivery is we are seeing sometimes an increase in accidents. There is obviously a very fast pace that these goods need to be delivered. There's also an increased theft exposure. We all see these Sprinter vans that are left idling while the driver runs up to your doorstep to get you something. So there's a potential theft of vehicle, theft of goods. We're also seeing some really, really creative ways to address last mile delivery. I think everybody's heard about, drones, maybe those last mile delivery robots going down the street for a mile or two. In theory, any of those could be covered under inland marine.
Technology and automation are changing the outlook of the cargo industry quite a bit. How will it affect insurance coverage?
Well, we've seen quite an impact. Basically, there's telematics, there is collision mitigation systems, driverless trucks are on the horizon. So the idea is that each of these items should make trucking safer. The biggest source of motor truck cargo loss is truck accidents. So we anticipate that with these innovations, accidents will go down, truckers will be looking for premium discounts, and rightfully so if it's a safer environment.
So I think it's really interesting, obviously, with the Food Safety Modernization Act and the concern over adulterated food, being able to track the temperatures in the vehicles, I think is really important. From a claim standpoint, it will be interesting. I think it will help certain claims be denied. We can prove that the temperature is maintained the whole time, but I think it will also lead to other claims being filed that may not have been filed before. The other thing that we're seeing some products out there, such as AAIS, they're offering onboard and offboard electronic coverage, which is great. And then the other thing I think will be really interesting is, as we look ahead and we look to autonomous vehicles, there's going to be a need for new insurance products. If an autonomous vehicle gets in an accident, is that auto physical damage, or is that more a GL product liability thing? So I'm sure there'll be more to come.
And with technologies becoming increasingly integrated into the operations of cargo carriers, are we seeing an increase in cyber attacks? And if so, how bad? And what can be done?
Well, I expect that it's going to get a little bit worse than it is currently. For years we've had fictitious pickup issues through ID theft. Bad guys get early on a pickup and they get out with the load through the ID theft. Now we're on the horizon of driverless trucks, electronic security, and that certainly is going to lend itself more to cyber attacks. So I think it's going to be an increase we're going to see.
Overall, cyber attacks are on the rise, and it's challenging. A lot of our truckers are small to medium-sized businesses. They may not have all the infrastructure and protection in place that a larger company would have, and there are a lot of various ways our truckers are at risk for cyber attacks. First, just their own computer systems can get hacked. I believe Kevin mentioned misdirected loads. That's a big concern. The electronic logging devices store a lot of pertinent information. They usually have the driver's personal info. They also have the location of the truck. That could be really concerning. And then, again, when we get to autonomous vehicles, those are essentially large computers just barreling down the road. That could also be hacked, and that could have some cataclysmic results.
There's so much change coming to the inland marine industry. What is the IMUA doing to keep its members informed and ready for the road ahead?
Well, Ed, we're focused on education and training for our industry professionals. That's our number one priority. We've stepped up the last 2 years during the pandemic. We've greatly stepped up our remote education. In fact, since March of 2020, we offered 70 events, and we had 7,109 registrants for it, which is record for us. So we're going to continue that focus. We're also launching in June our 4th e-learning course, which is an intro to fine arts. And that follows the intro courses to builder's risk, transportation, and contractor's equipment. So that's where we're focused. And also the other thing that's a major event for us is our annual meeting, which comes up in April.
Jessica, as you look ahead, how do you feel about the prospects for insurers in the inland marine space? And what can they do to remain competitive?
So we're seeing a lot of new entrants into our space. It's obviously a great place to be. There's a huge need for capacity right now. There's a huge need for frame capacity with the modular construction and also the cross-laminated timber construction. I think the insurers that can pivot quickly and take advantage of new opportunities in the market are obviously going to have a lot of success. I spoke a little bit earlier about drones and those last mile delivery robots. I think those are great opportunities. There's also a lot going on right now in the cryptocurrency space. I kind of feel like every day something new is coming up that inland may be able to address it. I think the other thing right now is there's so much data available. There's so much technology, there's so much data. The underwriters, in theory, have pretty much everything at their fingertips. It should help them make better decisions, but I always say, never underestimate the need for an underwriter's intuition.
Before we close, the annual IMUA meeting is coming up. What can you tell us about the agenda?
Oh, Ed, we're really excited about the meeting. It's been 3 years now since we've had an on-site meeting. We're going down to the charming, beautiful city of Savannah. And currently we have over 300 registrants, and that's approaching our record of 315. So we're thrilled with the results and looking forward to it. We're a little bit different this year. Our keynote is going to be Lindsay Frace. Lindsay is a partner with Tiger Risk, a reinsurance broker, and she has a great deal of experience in the commercial inland marine space. We also have a session on renewable energy, focusing on solar. We have a high exposure, high value contractors equipment course, which is going to talk about logging and recycling, which are two very tough classes of business. We have a transportation session. We have some, which will be emerging risks in the trucking industry and the supply chain problems that we're currently experiencing. And then we also have an infrastructure session, which will feature a loss control engineer and a civil engineer talking about the legislation that's come down from the federal government and how it's going to impact our industry. And finally, we finish up with a lessons from losses, which is going to kind of spotlight three of our new rising stars. And we have a great amount of social networking opportunities and can't wait to get down to Savannah.
So I'm super excited to announce that we will be giving all access education to our members. I cannot give you any details on that. You'll have to be at the meeting in person to get the first scoop.
Well, you know AAIS will be there. Jessica, Kevin, thank you for the update.
Thanks, Ed. It was great to talk to you.
My pleasure, Ed. Thank you.
If you'd like more information on the inland marine market, make sure to look us up at the annual IMUA meeting or visit us at the AAIS website. Until next time, this is Ed Kelly.